Joining us today for Steel Club's daily market briefing is Samir N Kapadia. He is the CEO and principal of the Vogel Group in Washington, D.C. Samir, it's a pleasure to have you join us for Steel Club's daily market briefings. We can now take this time to promote your company and your profile for SMM2021 Q3, which takes place from September 20th to the 23rd. Let's now discuss the Vogel Group in the US and the current demand to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. What perspective does the Vogel Group have on domestic global supply chains, including business strategies during this pandemic?
Well, thank you so much for having me, Neil. And it's always a pleasure to speak in front of your viewership about some of these issues from Washington. So just by way of background, the Vogel Group is a bipartisan consulting and government relations firm in Washington. We specialize in trade policy and advise almost 100 companies around the world on how to navigate global supply chains as it relates to what's coming out of Washington. And I can say right now, it's an incredibly busy time, given all of the fluid policies out there with trade policy, whether it's with Section 232 policy, new Buy America provisions. There's also a promotion around a new carbon border adjustment tariff or tax. And we can't forget the elephant in the room, the large infrastructure package, which is going to be coming out at the end of September. So without question, for anyone in global supply chains, you really need to pay attention to what Washington's doing, particularly if you're in the steel industry.
Okay, great. You are scheduled to be speaking at our upcoming event in September, SMM2021 Q3. Talk to us about why you're excited to participate in this event.
Well, it's going to be really exciting because by that time, we'll have a lot of clarity as to what exactly the Senate, the House, the Department of Commerce, the United States Trade Representative, and what Mr. Biden want to do when it comes to the domestic steel industry. Now, we can't forget that there are some macroeconomic and political issues that are taking the front seat when it comes to how Washington looks at the world. At the US, we have some transitory inflation and some potential changes within the Fed chair that might dictate a lot of how the country will navigate economically. Politically, if anyone's reading the news, Afghanistan is on the top of the minds of a lot of lawmakers and the folks in the White House to really manage that crisis, which could spiral into something that we don't want to see. But nonetheless, for those in the steel industry, all of the other policies are continuing as planned. Donald Trump's Section 232 trade policy, which imposed tariffs on the import of steel and aluminum, seemed to be sticking. In many respects, President Biden is just Trump without the tweets when it comes to tariffs. So I think a lot of people are going to be asking themselves, will that continue? And how will the Department of Commerce navigate providing tariff relief for steel importers? From what I'm seeing in Washington, this Department of Commerce seems to be much more sophisticated than the Trump administration into valuing judgments on which companies should receive tariff relief and which companies shouldn't. So there's a bright spot there when it comes to 232 policy. Now, additionally, the Biden administration is looking at including a number of new provisions which will protect the domestically integrated steel companies. So your Nucors, your AK Steels, your Cliffs, a number of the large companies, your US Steels, these are companies that are begging President Biden to not only keep Section 232, but provide new ways to put taxes on companies that are importing into the United States. And one new proposal is the carbon border adjustment tariff. Now, this will be determined through the Senate Finance Committee over the next month. And if put into effect, anyone that's importing steel from around the world from countries that they deem to be carbon polluters, you'll have to face a fee or a tariff on those imports. So you thought 232 was bad. Things are really about to heat up if this goes into place as well. So I think right now it will be a great time to talk with viewers about what are the opportunities to address some of these new policy issues? How can we manage and navigate them? And ultimately, what's actually going to happen? So really exciting time to talk about these things.
Okay, excellent insights. Let's now take the time to introduce your company and how it's performing.
Well, the Vogel Group, I can say, has been extremely busy when it comes to our steel-related clients. Every single one of these clients is looking at reshaping their narrative with the Biden administration. Now, remember, with the Trump administration, it was all about job creation and investments. If you're able to tell that story, particularly within the Rust Belt of this country, you would basically tell the Trump administration that, hey, we're lockstep with what you want to achieve to grow the middle class and to relive the American dream through the steel industry. The Biden administration wants to do that, but they want to do it differently. They're all about green and clean steel. Not all steel is created equal. And it's really interesting to see what the AISI and what SMA, some of these trade associations, are doing to lobby in and around that. So our company has been incredibly busy and invigorated by the Biden administration when it comes to green steel. We think it's a wonderful narrative, but you got to pay attention to the fine print, because if you don't, then you might really miss out on some opportunities to either manage risk or capitalize on opportunity.
Okay, excellent. Are there any recent market trends that have surfaced in your area?
I would say one of the largest market trends that we're seeing is the fact that steel producers feel that this is still a golden era for producing steel. They think that with the infrastructure package that's going to come out, remember, this is $1 trillion infrastructure deal, a bipartisan deal, and frankly, one of the biggest spending packages that will benefit the most in the country, given how it's going to attach to every single state with new money for bridges, for railways, for electric vehicle charging stations, for 5G internet. So many different things are going to go into this that sort of new spending will buoy a lot of activity. The question is, what will be the headwind to that? And the headwind will be the Buy America provisions. So if you are a domestic steel company in the United States, but you have a global supply chain, you're going to be in the doghouse because you're not going to be eligible to do any of these government projects, because they're going to have much more stringent component-based regulations around what is suitable for government contracts and what's not. And that's new. And President Biden has even said that he's not going to allow for a lot of waivers. So I think that the trend is a lot of spending, but government once again has picked winners and losers, which is going to be incredibly challenging to address and to manage.
Okay, well, Steel Club is looking forward to having you join us next month for SMM2021 Q3. And we would also like to thank you for taking this time to join us for a daily market briefing. Thank you kindly, Samir.
Thank you, and I'll see you soon.